News organizations beg for a presidential debate, Trump's first week in his criminal trial, and why the public doesn't trust the media. If I had to guess, I'd say it's an epidemic of the public having ears and eyeballs. And more on this week's America Uncovered headline. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. Happy 420 to those who observe. And speaking of events people need to get high to enjoy, the Biden-Trump presidential debates. Both the Democratic and Republican National Committee have refused to commit to 2024 presidential debates, causing many to speculate that they may not happen this year. Because even in these politically divisive times, both sides can find common ground and agree that the 2020 presidential debates were a disaster. Cockfights are more respectable and better moderated. Partially because of that, in 2022, the Republican National Committee unanimously voted to withdraw from the Commission on Presidential Debates, claiming they were biased and unfair. And I agree. Those debates were unfair to anyone like me who participated in their high school debate club and had to see a mockery made of the hobby. Nay, sport we cherish, and that now no one will ever respect it again. And I'm not alone in thinking that. Here's what former Democratic advisor and political commentator George Stephanopoulos had to say following the first 2020 debate.
But I have to speak personally here as somebody who's watched presidential debates for 40 years, as somebody who's moderated presidential debates, as someone who's prepared candidates for presidential debates, as someone who's covered presidential debates. That was the worst presidential debate I have ever seen.
And the sad thing is, that was just the worst presidential debate Stephanopoulos has ever seen so far. Because 12 of the country's biggest news organizations penned an open letter urging Biden and Trump to debate in 2024. Despite not participating in any of the Republican primary presidential debates, Trump has said he's willing to debate Joe Biden anytime, anywhere, any place. Joe Rogan, please. Meanwhile, Biden says his decision on whether or not he would debate Trump depends on Trump's behavior. By choosing not to debate, though, Biden may just be punishing himself. As polls show, third-party candidates threaten to take votes away from him. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. could qualify for the debate if he reaches 15% in the polls. Of course, none of this really matters, since whether or not Biden and Trump participate, the presidential debates will surely be won by America Uncovered's officially endorsed presidential candidate Chris Christie. No one can win an argument against a guy from New Jersey because they employ the world's greatest persuasion skills, aka brass knuckles. Speaking of Trump, his trial over the alleged cover-up over the alleged hush money he paid to Stormy Daniels, allegedly, began. This makes him the first former president to face a criminal trial. And it's already off to a dramatic start, with the judge setting an April 23rd hearing to see if Trump violated a gag order by attacking witnesses in this case on Truth Social. Trump also attacked the judge on Truth Social for not letting him attend the Supreme Court hearing over presidential immunity on April 25th. And Trump's lawyers argued that his classified documents case should be delayed since he'll be at this New York trial for the next several weeks and won't be able to go to Florida to defend himself in this other trial. Trump is involved in so many court cases, he would need a clone to physically attend them all. Uh-oh. Is this how we wind up with a failed attempt at a Donald Trump clone? You know, besides Ron DeSantis. Ooh, that's spicy. Trump's New York trial is currently in the jury selection phase, and this can take up to 2 weeks. But it's a Trump trial, so everything is set on fast forward. All 12 jurors have been selected. During the process, dozens of potential jurors were dismissed after saying they couldn't be impartial, which makes sense since Trump is one of the most well-known people on the planet, and he's more polarizing than pouring ice cream on pizza. Either you think it sounds crazy but might wind up being a great idea, or this is going to be the end of democracy as we know it. This whole story is exhausting. So exhausting, reports from inside the courtroom allege Trump dozed off. Trump's campaign denied this, calling it fake news from reporters who weren't in the courtroom. At least on the bright side, the world as we know it may be ending. More after the break. Welcome back. Coral around the world are turning white, a process known as bleaching and dyeing. This is the fourth global coral bleaching event on record, with the first occurring in 1998. Scientists predict this will be the most extensive coral bleaching yet. They say the phenomenon is caused by rising ocean temperatures. Many assume this is being caused by climate change, but I know the real culprit. White supremacy! Coral are turning white? What else would be behind such a nefarious act on reefs of color? Before you know it, we're going to see underwater Panera Breads. Quit trying to gentrify the oceans, you monsters. Speaking of environmental news, sections of the 101 freeway in Agora Hills, California will close overnight over the next several weeks to install a wildlife crossing. It's nice to see that animals will be given a decent shot at living their best lives. As for the homeless people sleeping under these freeway overpasses, maybe if they disguise themselves as animals, California politicians will finally come up with a solution to help them. The 101 wasn't the only freeway to see heavy traffic in California this week. Pro-Palestinian protesters shut down the Golden Gate Bridge for hours on Monday. This was part of a global effort to stand in solidarity with Gaza. Protesters also blocked traffic to Chicago's O'Hare Airport and the Seattle-Tacoma Airport, as well as the Brooklyn Bridge. This occurred in several other cities as well. It caused a lot of trouble, but don't worry, these protesters were marching on a message of love and unity. Yep, love and unity. But at least these protests ended the Israel-Hamas war. What's that, Shelley? The war is still going on? And U.S. officials say Israel has struck a site in Iran in retaliation for Iran's missiles attack on Israel earlier this week? On Ayatollah Khamenei's birthday? Oh dear. But I thought the mayors of deep blue American cities were directly responsible for the actions of the Israeli army. Also, causing people to get stuck in heavy traffic is not how you're going to change hearts and minds to be on your side. That would be like saying, how can we convince people that abortion is wrong? I know, let's cut the power at the DMV so people have to spend even more time there. That'll get people on our side, and definitely won't make them wish that our parents were pro-abortion. Speaking of groups that try to forcibly change people's minds, the media. Yuri Berliner, a senior editor at NPR, where he's been employed for the last 25 years, wrote an essay detailing how the outlet has a leftist bias. Wait, this is NPR we're talking about? NPR. Wow, I am shocked. But Berliner says NPR went from left-leaning to straight-up activism. He claims it lost America's trust by forgoing journalistic values to chase a niche progressive audience that hated Donald Trump and purposely tried to harm his campaign with their reporting. Berliner says since he started working there, he's seen their audience lose not only conservative listeners, but moderate and traditional liberals as well. And they're now faced with a choice. Two paths seem clear. We can keep doing what we're doing, hoping it will all work out, or we could start over with the basic building blocks of journalism. After reading these criticisms, NPR said it realized the error of their ways and that they would course correct. No, I'm just kidding. NPR Chief Executive Catherine Maher sent out a memo calling Berliner's essay profoundly disrespectful and demeaning for questioning the lack of diversity of opinion in NPR's newsroom. Berliner was suspended for 5 days without pay. According to him, the suspension was ostensibly over failing to secure approval for outside work. He ultimately resigned, saying he couldn't work in a newsroom where he was disparaged and that the new CEO's views were divisive and proved the issue he cited in his essay. And in my ongoing attempts to talk about things YouTube considers too controversial by hiding them in gaming content, click on this video about the game The Withering Rooms. It has absolutely nothing to do with Epstein's Island. Not a thing. Don't even know why I'm bringing it up. Let me know what you think. An American Covered wouldn't exist without your support. Click that orange button to support us on Patreon. All it takes is $1 an episode, and you can set a monthly limit. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.